Okay, I want to talk about boobs for a second
Yeah.
because almost everyone we know has gotten their boobs or is thinking of getting their boobs or has done their boobs more than once.
Yeah.
My first question is, what is the life term or expectancy of a set of boobs?
Okay. Well, anybody who gets a set of implants, I am hoping your plastic surgeon told you during the pre-op that every implant that's available on the market, even all the way back into the early 90s before they took them off the market, were supposed to be replaced every 10 years. So I happen to have an implant right here. So this is a silicone implant, right?
Mhm.
Very durable, that sort of thing, but it's not meant to be in place forever. And so I have to get a lot of patients who go, oh, so this is the last surgery I'll need for this. I go, no. When you get a set of implants, you're kind of committing at least somewhat to having an exchange 10 years down the road, or you have to accept the possibility that the chances of rupture, capsular contracture, all these things start to go up
Mm.
pretty high if you don't, because these are just, implants that are made, that are over time have a wear and tear. So they will still wrinkle sometimes when you move side to side. And these
Mm.
little wrinkles that you see here, this is usually a point in weakness that over the years, if it keeps, folding in that particular place, even though you might not see it because it's underneath the skin, this is an area it might rupture. So that's why 10 years, they're recommended to be replaced because all the studies for all the implants were done for 10 years. So
How could you tell if your implant has ruptured?
that's a good question. And so if you have saline implants, it's pretty easy to tell, right? I'm not
Mm.
sure if you know of anybody with a saline ruptured implant.
I used to have saline. Wait, while you're talking about that, do
Yeah.
people get saline anymore, or is that
I
like
would say there's still a portion of people, but the majority are probably doing silicone now because the silicone does feel so much more natural. You hear a lot of people call the implants the gummy bear implant because they really do feel like a gummy bear, whereas saline implants tend to feel a little bit more stiff, a little bit more firm. Nothing wrong with that, but when you compare it to a silicone implant, it just feels, silicone feels a lot more natural. But
okay?
saline implants, the one thing about them that might be a small advantage is if you rupture a saline implant, it looks like a flat tire, right? It just goes poof and it flattens out. And now you have this huge difference. And that person will call me up in the morning and be like, hey, my boob looks flattened. And I go, you have saline implants. It's probably a rupture. Your body reabsorbed it. And so you know. Silicone's a little bit different because it's so cohesive. And it
Mhm.
means that it doesn't leak like saline. It's more of it's so cohesive that it's like a gummy bear, right? So if I were to cut the implant, it still holds its shape. It doesn't leak out, just like if you cut a gummy bear. And so I actually have this implant here, and I know people listen to the podcast, but if they want to watch, I can certainly cut this right here if you want me to. And
Oh
I
yeah,
can,
let's do it.
what's something you want to see that?
Yeah, let's do
Okay.
it.
All right. So
We'll put this in a
this
clip.
is a standard silicone implant, gummy bear implant. You can kind of see it here. This one is a high profile implant. The profile means how much it projects this way. This is a high profile implant, and I believe it's around 450 cc's. I got the knife here. So
Okay.
let's take this. I think this is pretty cool. So if you want to watch this, you're gonna have to watch the video portion. This is a blade, and so this is, oh, I'm gonna use this implant. This is an older implant that we have that we don't need. So same thing, silicone. So I'm going to take this knife, right? And I'm just going to, let's get close to the camera, put this in here. Now it's punctured through. I'm pushing it through and it's open. Now you can't really see it until I squeeze it. You see it kind of
Yeah,
squeeze out like that?
yeah. So it'll hold its
But
shape,
it doesn't leak.
right? But it
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
like.
like if I cut a gummy bear, it doesn't leak. So that's the cool thing with the silicone implants, it doesn't leak. So you can have potentially a small rupture, you won't know. It's not harmful for you to have this silicone, and it's very sticky. I'm going to just show you it's very sticky.
Oh,
See, but it almost goes right back to its shape. And
right.
so, but it doesn't leak. So, and this exposed to your body is not going to cause any medical problems, any cancers. But typically, what we'll see is sometimes maybe a shape change on the breast. We'll see a little shape change, or it can stimulate a capsular contracture to occur, which is the scar tissue around it that starts to squeeze it and it feels hard.
Right.
But the best way to confirm it is either with an ultrasound, but the best one is going to be a CT scan or an MRI. Once you see it, then you know, hey, it's ruptured. We need to replace it. And all these implants will have a warranty. So the company's going to say, hey, if we see this happens, we'll reimburse you for the implant exchange. So that's the nice thing there, because they're not supposed to rupture. And I haven't seen a rupture of one of my patients in years, probably 5-6 years. That's how good these 5th generation implants are.
And do you really have to do something extraordinary to rupture them for the most part? I mean, I know you said that sometimes it could bend in a certain spot and after years it's wear and tear, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't tell anybody that they can't do, because I just had someone today who's asking, okay, if I get an implant, does that mean I can't do any chest exercises? I really like to work out my chest. I like to work out my biceps. You work out your biceps, you still are activating a little bit of your pectoralis major muscle, which can
yeah.
push the implant around. No, I tell people they can work out just like they did before. You get in a car accident with a seatbelt, with a seatbelt across your chest like this, it's not good. I have not seen a rupture that way. So we've taken these implants and run them over with a car and they stay in shape. So
Wow.
it's not the immediate pressure. I will tell you what I see most of the time is just where it folds and crease and that
Yeah.
wear and tear in that one little area after like 8, 5, 7, 10 years, that can be a small little point of a fracture. So.
Do you use a certain brand like Allergan or whatever those are?
Yeah, there's really only 3 major companies. You have Allergan, Mentor, Sientra, and there was another company, but they just went under. So really, you just kind of have 3 major brands. Allergan's the largest. They're the sort of the descendants of the old Dow Corning implants that were from the 70s, the guys from Houston who developed them. And so they're sort of the descendants of that, but they're all good implants really, because the FDA is overseeing all the tests and trials to make sure they were ready to come back on the market after the time they took them off the market for about 10 years in the early or late 90s, early 2000s.
Mm.
And I actually use all of them, but I probably focus more on the Allergan because they're the largest company with a lot of different sizes that I can choose from.
Right. Another question that someone wanted me to ask was about changing the shape. So if you had a certain, not shape like in the actual implant, but in terms of your chest, because if you've gone from one side to the other, or you want more of a space, or you want less
Right.
of a space, can you do stuff like that? Or kind of, are you stuck with what your body's original shape is?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I hear quite a bit is they'll often tell me about the spacing of their breasts. They go, I don't want this big space that I see some of these celebrities have, or some people, they want better cleavage. And so I have to look at them, and sometimes they're just, anatomy wise, they're spaced out quite a bit. And so
Right.
I do tell them I can't get a real tight cleavage, like where they're touching, but I can make this space that you have and I can close it down, but it's all relative. If they have a wide space, I can bring it in a little and make the space a lot more narrow. If they have normal spacing, sure, with a large enough implant, they can start really touching or have a little space. So I would say within a certain degree of someone's own anatomy, we can change it a little bit. And we have the ability to do that. But if someone has a real, kind of abnormal shape, then we have to talk about realistic expectations and what we can do and what we can't do.
Right.